Hey, very good afternoon to you. I'm Robert McNeely. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your number one source for political events right here in America. And the president, we saw him earlier with the farmers and ranchers there at the White House, now en route to Miami, Florida, where it is sunshine filled in the southeast today as temperatures get warmer in the springtime. Before those remarks, 1 hour from now at the F2 Summit, we have CPAC going on in Dallas, Texas. We also have a very animated House Speaker Mike Johnson, which you rarely see. Someone very sharp and keen on doing what's right for the American people and getting this TSA officers fully funded, as well as the whole apparatus of nearly 10 different operations under the scope and the umbrella of the Department of Homeland Security. So off the top of this broadcast, we'll go to Jim Paff, quite an expert on Capitol Hill, having served as a chief of staff. This is from a couple of days ago, but still relevant to what's happening, even in lieu of the early morning vote by the Senate, sending that back to the House. And now the House responding with its own package. And within the last hour or so, President Trump signing the executive order to make sure from the one big beautiful bill, our TSA agents do in fact get fully funded. So we'll toss that there now to Jim Paff from the Conservative Caucus. It's about where's it standing now with the Safe America Act, and will we actually see common sense legislation being passed out of the Senate finally to come onto President Trump's desk? And mind you, Republicans and Democrats throughout the country, voters actually support this.
Yeah, one would think that something that has 80% approval by the American people would just kind of sail through. Even with a determined Democrat opposition, you would think that would be the case. But right now, listen, you have to give a lot of credit to Mike Lee. He has done a tremendous job leading this fight and really making the case that there is a path to get this passed, even through normal Senate processes. The vaunted talking filibuster, which really is just the filibuster. The 60 vote rule that everyone talks about is not the filibuster. That is a way to get out of a filibuster. But another way to get out of a filibuster is to work really hard through weekends, late nights, going through the normal process where senators get 2 opportunities on any bill to speak, and then you move right to a majority vote. That takes a lot of work. You have to keep the legislative day moving past the calendar days. All of these procedures are possible. If Republicans were just willing to make sure that it happened, I think there's a decent chance that this thing could get passed. But you got to go through that process. You got to be serious about it. So where is it now? I'm not certain if we're going to be able to have the success with it, but I have more positive feelings about that now than I did when this whole thing started, because the discussions are happening just like we all were encouraging to happen, and Mike Lee was really pushing for. And it's opening up this debate and making people understand that Democrats really are about allowing illegals to vote. You even had a Democrat senator this week saying that the people we care about most, the undocumented people. I mean, that is kind of really what they stand for, and John Barrasso called that out on the floor today. So we know what Democrats are wanting to do. The American people, hopefully, and I think, are seeing what they really want to do. And if that's any indication, then the chances get better every day, even though I wouldn't say they're over 50%. I would just say it's there and it could be done.
Well, if I was consulting Republican congressional candidates, actually Republicans across the board right now, that State of the Union moment of President Trump calling out the Democrat Party in a very simple voice vote, if you will, when it comes to cheers for the president in that moment, who would rather protect American citizens? It clearly is the Republican Party, not the Democrats. We saw this with Sheridan Gorman, sadly, the latest victim in Chicago with an illegal alien who had quite a track record, and shooting her in the back, allegedly. A terrible story there, so this does continue. Let's go to Iran, Jim, and the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, very clear on what might be the timeline here. Do you expect this to end in 4 to 6 weeks? Because we know President Trump postponing that meeting with President Xi of China to May 14th and 15th.
It's hard to say yet. I'm not really clear on what's happening with these negotiations. on a 15-step plan, which some people in Iran say they're not accepting. Of course, you can never trust what they say, but it is an interesting indication that Rubio and Vance are on this as well, too. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance. And that makes me think that there is some movement, but let's not fool ourselves. The Iranians who have held power for nearly 50 years, since 1979, they're not going to give it up willingly. They've been coddled by the international community for so long, and they see the international community being a little bit hesitant about helping the United States too much. This dynamic is still playing out, and they're going to feel like that they still have some room. Shockingly, since their military is almost entirely destroyed, but nonetheless, this is the arrogant ways of radical Muslim clerics and their followers who do not want to give up power easily in Iran. Everything could break in a moment, though. So, 4 to 6 weeks, I would be hopeful that could happen. But as of yet, we don't have any clear indication that that's taking place, although it is clear that Donald Trump's working very hard to get there as quickly as possible.
And the Saudi Arabian government sharing vocally today through their crown prince that they want the job to be done and this regime ultimately removed. So you see that former allies in the region, the whole area has changed now as a result of what's taken place in the last, I would say, year or so under this new administration. Now, as we're watching this as well, Jim, people have headaches, some traveling to CPAC as well with long lines, whether you're at George Bush International in Houston, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, all the way back to Austin, Texas, and I'm sure airports throughout the country. We're seeing some ridiculous lines now, day 40 of the Democrat shutdown there. ICE agents handing out water bottles, but the Pennsylvania DA wants to put them in jail. Very interesting.
Well, he doesn't. It's kind of funny. He wants to put ICE agents in jail. He doesn't want to put anybody else in jail. And he's emptying out the jails as well, too, with violent criminals. He and many others like him around the country on the left are putting out in the streets. George Soros-backed prosecutors, most of them. So all that is a continuation of what I was describing earlier, although a different scenario. Democrats want illegals in this country for various reasons. One, it creates chaos. They're willing to allow violent, illegal aliens to remain on our streets and to prevent ICE from detaining them because chaos serves them politically. The Democrats do not have a foundation of any ideology or any plan that is good for America to win on. They're not even making an attempt to do that. All they do is oppose Donald Trump, and they need things like chaos on the streets to be able to give them, the ability to claim that the Trump administration is causing so many problems and to blame things on other people and claim to be the ones who can come in and fix it with no plan. But that's what they hope to do. Just take, for example, what Democrats are saying about what happened in Minnesota. You've got in this debate over the Save America Act and over the DHS funding, you have got senators, Democrat senators, regularly saying all the, quote, chaos that Donald Trump caused in Minnesota, unquote. Donald Trump didn't cause any chaos in Minnesota. If there had not been paid protesters, some of them violent, who weren't obstructing ICE, you wouldn't even know they were in those communities. You might have heard a news story here and there, kind of the typical thing, such and such a person was, that you hear in the nightly news, such and such a person was arrested at such and such and such and such a street for violent crimes, and then a picture of someone going off in handcuffs. And you'd have had a couple of those stories and no one would have thought about it. Democrats are causing that chaos, and it's a part of their plan. They want to remove the ability of ICE to do what it is authorized and, in fact, is responsible to do under the law, which is to adjudicate within the scope, by the way, not within our court system, but within immigrant courts, the removal of people who are here illegally And that process is right in the law. It's very clear. It's been on the books for a long period of time. The strict laws of immigration started in 1986 when fatefully Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 1 or 2 million illegals in return to get very strict immigration laws. And they were pretty strict, and we've added to them since, especially during the 1990s with the help of Democrats. Because at that time, their union constituency didn't want illegal aliens coming in. Now they've lost a bit of their union constituency. In fact, it's much smaller now than it was then. And their new constituency is illegal aliens. They twist the census numbers to give them extra seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. And we believe there are many of them that are registered to vote. We don't know how many of those registered to vote are voting, but there is some sizable number of them. So all this serves the Democrats in a way that has nothing to do with the American ideal, with building America into something that can work for people. We saw how poorly they would do that during the Biden administration, and they have no plan for the future. They just are against Donald Trump, and Republicans are evil, and we're the ones who are your saviors. We just can't tell you what we're going to save you to.
Well said. And Cesar Chavez, who's posthumously being really lit up with accusations that he can't defend himself now, being gone, famously with the Democrat Farm Labor Union out there in Los Angeles, California, did not want illegal immigration all those years ago. And as we're talking, Jim, an appeals court has let the Trump administration hold many immigration detainees without bond. So to your point, that trajectory holding up in a court of law. So we'll see where all of that goes. Let's get back to Capitol Hill as well with this, the TSA, and with the funding of that through DHS. We have a new Secretary Mullen who just jumped in on day one, grateful for President Trump and that nomination, and a little bit now bipartisan, 54-45 vote there. Two Democrats, respectively, from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and New Mexico joining Republicans. One Republican, Rand Paul, going the other direction there. Can reconciliation ultimately be reached? Because it seems as if Republicans reaching out to Democrats with a concession or two, and they say all or nothing.
There are no concessions possible with Democrats right now. They've made that very clear. They're quite clearly in opposition of Donald Trump and anything that he stands for. Again, just hearkening back to you bringing up what happened in the State of the Union, 90% of everything that was said during the State of the Union, Democrats didn't respond to. You had a few dozen who didn't even show up. And you had Ilhan Omar screaming at Donald Trump from the crowd of a congressman. So there's no compromise with these people. They're not interested in it. There are a couple who are willing to. It was interesting that Martin Heinrich of New Mexico voted for Martwang Mullen. I guess maybe not as much as a surprise that John Fetterman did. But beyond those two exceptions, and really Fetterman's the only consistent of those two exceptions, Democrats are firmly against anything that Donald Trump would do, giving any praise for any good that was done, and more importantly, in a consistent pattern of lying about what Donald Trump intends to do or what legislation will do, and what Donald Trump's done. They're constantly lying about it, misrepresenting it, and twisting it, and they still have a lot of willing participants in the media to help them bolster that message. Although I don't think that we see that it's getting through to the American people. The American people have put the Democrat Party, Democrat congressmen, at their lowest approval rating, I think, since that number has been taken. It's certainly close to it, if it's not the actual lowest number. One of the problems is, though, as we see the Save America Act, we see that Republicans don't seem in total as willing to fight for what the American people absolutely want. They could win a whole lot from that. So how does that relate to the DHS funding debate? The Democrats have put their heels in. They're not intending to do anything. They get offers on the table that they reject. They did bring some offers over. they seemed unreasonable to Republicans, but there have been very few of those things. They don't negotiate. They don't try to figure out what to do. And people in airports pay the price for it. Now, the ICE agents coming in have helped relieve some of the pressure because it allows the trained TSA agents to do what trained agents only can do, while ICE helps fill in some of the gaps that are being left to the side because you've either got, and understandably so, TSA agents not showing up to work because they're trying to get money from somewhere while they're not being paid, and some that have actually left. So it's helping a little bit. It's not going to solve the problem. The only way to solve the problem is for Democrats to decide to quit making the American people have to pay the price for their willingness to allow criminal illegals and illegals in general to stay in the country and thrive in this country. They should not be able to do either of those things.
And we see some of it coming from the private sector now with Delta, and they are committed to making these lawmakers actually stand in those lines if they're flying with them. So it'll be very interesting to watch that as this goes on. Jim Paff, thank you for joining us, president of the Conservative Caucus, doing some amazing work, and for your expertise analysis. Please come back and see us soon on the right side of history.
Thanks, Robert. Good to see you.
We'd like to always take a moment for one of our fondest sponsors here at the network. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 25% off right now on the most essential medications. Use that code RSBN25 and take advantage of it through the rest of the month. If you're someone who believes in financial freedom, freedom of speech, America as a whole, and especially your medical freedom, this is your online family pharmacy, one that supports the MAGA movement, most favored nation status, and the right to try. Things like antibiotics to antivirals, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, Tamiflu, still so important this time of year with cold and flu season out of control. But now as we go into the spring, good to have those nasal sprays on hand as well. Let's beat the bureaucrats. Let's beat the government. Let's beat Big Pharma and actually have access to off-label generics that can literally save your life. With over 400 options here at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, you put yourself in the driver's seat. No red tape, no bureaucracy, no insurance, no hassle. Simply a pharmaceutical note which goes to a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end to review that order and send it right back to your door. So take a moment, scan the QR code there, and get direct access to medications that can really make that difference, especially if you're traveling in those long lines for spring break and as we go into Holy Week, celebrating with family and friends. This ends on Tuesday, March 31st, so take advantage of it this weekend. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Get those emergency medical kits and 400 different essential medications to keep you safe from sickness at home or on the road. Once again, code RSBN25, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. International disputes and inflation to crypto and many other factors that continue to drive the dollar down. But gold going up over 700% in the last 2 decades. So what does that mean for you, your savings, your retirement? Perhaps change all of it and put it into a gold IRA or 401k through birchgoldgroup.com. My gosh, they are the best in the business. Text Trump to 989898. There you can find your free info kit on gold. Okay, these tangible metals, these precious metals that can make a massive difference for your savings. Now, more than any other commodity on earth, gold thrives when paper money fails. We're seeing that here. Nearly $39 trillion in debt at home. This is part of a crucial balanced strategy in order to hold gold in a tax-sheltered account, like an IRA, like a 401k. Diversification is key. So again, text Trump, easy to remember, 989898. Text Trump to 989898. And what do you have to lose? It's a free info kit. And what's great about Birch Gold Group, it's not one size fits all. They really want to accommodate where you're at financially. And with your savings, it's very different for each person, for each household. So as a way of diversification, gold is truly the best route. All the professionals agree. Text Trump to 989898. Birch Gold Group, the best in the business. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we go into what's been a big week, of course, in the federal city at the White House and on Capitol Hill. When does it not slow down? But some good news on an international front. The International Olympic Committee agreeing with President Trump. And cut number 18, the president praising them with getting men out of women's sports, boys out of girls' locker rooms. Congratulations to the International Olympic Committee on their decision to ban men from women's sports. This is only happening because of my powerful executive order standing up for women and girls, signed by the president. And in case you missed it, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, the best in the business, the superstar, as President Trump puts it, giving us an update on Operation Epic Fury with cut number 19.
The United States military continues to decimate the terrorist Iranian regime's offensive and defensive capabilities. Just over 3 weeks in, it's abundantly clear that Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding military triumph. More than 9,000 enemy targets have been struck to date. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 140 of their naval vessels, including almost 50 mine layers. This is the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Again, let me reiterate, this is the largest elimination of a navy on the face of the planet in a 3-week period since World War II. We are systematically dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent future threats to the region. Our military also remains laser focused on eliminating the regime's threat to the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the weekend, we dropped several 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility used to store equipment, including anti-ship cruise missiles and mobile missile launchers positioned along the coastline of the strait. Our military efforts grow more successful with each passing day, steadily degrading Iran's ability to terrorize merchant ships. For all of these reasons, we are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. From the outset, President Trump and the Department of War estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve this critical mission. 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally. Day by day, the Iranian regime is being crippled, and their ability to threaten the United States and our allies is being significantly weakened. Their ambitions of building a nuclear weapon have also been crushed to an even greater degree than they were in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That's why you're beginning to see the regime look for an exit ramp. They recognize they are being crushed, their ability to attack American and ally forces, as well as their ability to defend their own territory is dwindling literally hour by hour. Following President Trump's powerful threat on Saturday evening, it was made clear to the United States that Iran wanted to talk. President Trump is willing to listen. As President Trump announced on Monday, the United States has been engaged over the last 3 days in productive conversations, which led the president to temporarily instruct the Department of War to postpone planned strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure only. The remaining elements of the Iranian regime have another opportunity to cooperate with President Trump, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and cease actively threatening America and our allies. But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
There's a sad reality in America today, and it's simply that Washington, D.C. Democrats want to put illegal aliens over the rights and the safety of American citizens. We saw that with an elderly veteran thrown onto New York City train tracks over the course of the last few hours. And Sheridan Gorman, an 18-year-old Loyola University student in Chicago, Illinois, allegedly shot in the back by a Venezuelan national. It's time to end illegal immigration in this country, and this administration working overtime to do so. But we still have a scourge from Alejandro Mayorkas and the Autopen, in which they left us a broken system and an open border, one that Tom Homan, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, also Kristi Noem, and now Markwayne Mullin, among others in the administration, fervently trying to close as soon as possible, as you've had since the summer virtually no crossings, but sadly millions and millions of illegal alien criminals pouring in over our southern border. And with cut number 20, Sheridan's the latest victim in Chicago, Illinois, due to blue policies of Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson.
In recent days, we saw the deadly consequence of this deranged policy of Democrat open borders and an illegal alien first agenda. A beautiful 18-year-old girl, Sheridan Gorman, she was shot and killed in Chicago last Thursday morning while walking in a park with friends. The suspect in custody for murdering her is a Venezuelan illegal alien who was caught and released at the border by the Biden administration in May of 2023. Why would the Biden administration catch and release a Venezuelan illegal alien? That is not happening anymore under this president. But there are still tens of thousands, if not millions, of these illegal aliens in our country who seek to do harm to innocent Americans, like this beautiful young woman whose family will now never be the same because of her death. To make matters even worse, this monster was also released from local custody again after a shoplifting arrest, where? In the sanctuary city of Chicago in June of 2023. Again, another innocent American citizen had her life stolen from her because Democrats embrace reckless open border policies and reckless sanctuary city policies, which put criminals back into American communities. How many more Americans have to die before the Democrats end this madness? President Trump's position is very clear. He wants the federal government opened, he wants the Department of Homeland Security funded, and he wants the Democrat shutdown to end immediately. The president will also continue to call on Democrat leaders in sanctuary cities and states like J.B. Pritzker, where this young, beautiful girl was murdered, to cooperate with ICE and stop releasing illegal alien criminals into American neighborhoods. It is for the safety of every American citizen, including all of the people in this room.
Such a tragic story. Our thoughts and prayers with the Gorman family at this very difficult time, as we thank our sponsors here on the right side of history, angelpaste.com. This is my favorite miracle cream right here. You can use it every day to help keep your skin glowing. For guys, for gals, for everybody, it is the miracle cream that keeps on giving. 10% off right now with code RSBN. What's wonderful about their products, and they just shipped a bunch to us, they're just wonderful people. It's non-GMO, no chemicals. Sometimes you go for these beauty products and then you look at the ingredients and you don't recognize the 30+ things that are in the bottle. And many of those red dyes, blue dyes with different numbers, and you wonder, is this good for my skin to absorb? No worries with Angel Paste and the Miracle Cream. They also have a wonderful orange option, good year-round, because it's filled with vitamin C that can help with collagen, or if you're not feeling so well, also that natural facial spray right in the heart of Texas, off of the Gulf of America. Spring, Texas, in fact, in the Houston Metroplex. They are Christian-owned, they hire veterans, and they love this great country. We love them as well. It's angelpaste.com for your health, for your beauty. 10% off right now with code RSBN. Speaking of health and gut health, covepeer.com/RSBN. Go ahead, scan that QR code for the leader in reverse osmosis systems with their famous Clear Wave technology. It's removing 99.9% of the toxicities and what is bad in your tap water. Things like microplastics to other chemicals like pharmaceutical runoff, also agricultural runoff and pesticides. that are in the tap water. JAMA Pediatrics doing a study recently with children, students drinking out of the tap on a regular basis could lose up to 2 points or more in their IQ. But look at how convenient that is on your kitchen counter, no larger than your coffee machine. What's great about this device, if you are renting in an apartment right now and you worry about a reverse osmosis system, there's no drilling holes, there's no inviting the plumber over to take up many hours to install. What you see is what you get, ready in moments. Also, if you enjoy tea, great to steep that at a higher frequency, at a faster rate. You can get that temperature up there to 170 or more very quickly. Same if you like it ice cold or even lukewarm. So get $250 off right now, covepure.com/RSBN. Drink pure, live pure. It all starts in the gut, and you deserve clean air and clean water, especially as conservatives. We're just trying to conserve common sense, protect what matters most with covepure.com/RSBN. And on this very dark and sad topic of what angel families have been through with this illegal alien crime that, again, is 100% preventable if the law is enforced. And thank God for this administration doing just that. But for those who would like to play the game of calling it a political hot football or just a hot button issue, look in the eyes of the angel families. Look at the mothers, the fathers, the brothers and sisters, and extended family members who have lost the ones they love, people that are irreplaceable. Everyone has a deep story, and these people have to deal with it every day of their lives. This is common sense, and this administration dealing with it as we hear the stories from the angel families with Cut 21.
Well, my name is Angel Mom Mary Ann Mendoza. My son was Sergeant Brandon Mendoza of the Mesa, Arizona Police Department. He was killed on May 12, 2014 by a repeat illegal criminal.
I'm the mother of Lacey Marie Ferguson. She was shot and killed. We never thought it could happen to us. We're just normal people. Everybody is in danger of this. They just don't realize it. They're trying to hide what's happening to American citizens.
My name is Angel Mom Agnes Gibney. I am a legal immigrant, and I am so proud of President Trump for securing our borders and keeping Americans safe. My firstborn and only son, Ronald da Silva, was murdered by a previously deported criminal illegal alien. It should have never happened if our borders would have been secured. My son would still be alive today.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hall. I'm an angel mom. My 18-year-old daughter, Haley King, was killed in 2016. The man who murdered her was sentenced to 17 years in prison. 20 months into the sentence, he was up for parole. There's a lot that's broken in the system that needs to be changed in the judicial part of this too.
My name is Sanjeev Kumar. It's my brother Deepak Kumar. Lost my nephew David Surrender Gutierrez. He was murdered on Valentine's Day, 2025. For us, I think the biggest thing that we want is accountability.
You know, they talk about these people being removed from their families. Well, what about us? I lost my son. I'll never see him again.
Angel moms come out and speak about this, not because our children are going to be brought back, but because we want to save the pain of another angel mom from experiencing what we've experienced. And this is a war on our homeland. It's time that America listens to angel moms.
It takes a piece of my soul away each time I see another angel family.
I would like to see every illegal alien deported. You want to come to the United States, you respect this country and respect the laws of this country like my family did. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for inviting us angel moms to the White House. It is an honor and privilege to call you my president.
Washington, D.C. Democrats have blood on their hands. They should be ashamed of the way they have played games over the last 42 days, not funding critical Department of Homeland Security apparatus, our ICE and Border Patrol, in addition to our crucial TSA agents who have been hit the most and inconveniencing Americans across many airports amongst our great land in the middle of Operation Epic Fury, simply to try to have an issue to deal with the president in the midterms. So your vote this 2026 is literally a choice between life and death. It's no exaggeration. This is where they stand. They hate this country. They don't want safety. They want chaos in order to control and regain power. May they never have the majorities again. And how does this tie into those conversations happening at CPAC? We could jump to cut number 28. Nick Shirley, who showed everyone, the world, fraud, waste, and abuse on a grand scale in Minnesota, and Somalian illegal aliens who took advantage of the system. 19 billion that we know of coming out of the state of Minnesota, all led by that Leering Center because, oh, I guess you just misspell learning on a regular basis. This has been the most viewed speech from CPAC thus far, now underway tonight as we gear up for that Reagan dinner in the evening. Here's the full speech by Nick Shirley.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and to be able to speak to you guys today. And I'm not here to speak on behalf of Republicans nor Democrats. I'm here to speak on behalf of we the people. I think nowadays we can all agree that we all just want to live the American dream and have the best life possible. However, it feels that sometimes, actually a lot of times, non-controversial issues are becoming controversial inside of America. For instance, if you take a look at the idea of deporting illegal migrants, that word is illegal. That should not be controversial. Or the idea that showing your ID to vote has become controversial. That's not controversial either. The idea that fraud is bad has become controversial. How is that controversial? I know a little bit about fraud. I know a little bit about Minnesota daycares as well. And it's crazy to think that we live in a world where somebody who exposes fraud can then be painted as the bad man from the politicians where he exposed the fraud. Shouldn't they be excited to know that the fraud is being exposed, because that's not a Republican dollar or a Democrat dollar, it's actually our dollars. I've never gotten a dollar bill that says right or red or blue or right or left. We all live inside of the same country, and we should all want the best for our country. And when you see fraud inside of our country taking place at literally rampant levels, for instance, in Minnesota, there were programs like autism where you have 10,000% increases in the budget for autism, and this money then goes into the hands of fraudsters. How does somebody not look at that and say, there's a 10,000% increase in the budget for autism? Is there a 10,000% increase in autistic children inside of our neighborhoods? And if the answer is no, how are they justifying a 10,000% increase in the budget? And in other instances like California, where you have 1,000% increase in hospices, is everyone going to die in LA? I don't think so. So the idea that here inside the United States, when we have these non-controversial issues that have become controversial, it puts us into a weird culture war where it puts people into a position to think, okay, well, wait, how are you supporting this when you're actually not benefiting we the people? We all live inside of the United States. We're not supposed to be, when elected officials elected, they're not supposed to represent 50% of the population. They're supposed to represent 100% of the population. In an instance where fraud is taking place inside our country, each and every single person should want to crack down on that fraud. Because if we don't, these people can continue just to literally steal our dollars. And they steal our dollars, and then they send it overseas, and once it's overseas, we can't ever get that money back. And that's something that I've learned as I've gone about exposing this fraud. And a lot of times, these people that are taking our tax dollars are foreigners who are not even from the United States of America, and they're stealing our money. And it's just been so crazy to see how in all 50 states there is fraud. However, it seems to be that most of the fraud is in a lot of these blue cities. And when you go out and expose the fraud, I mean, I think Gavin Newsom, he posted a photo of me the other day and had 10 cameras on me, an AI-generated image saying, "Where are the kids?" trying to depict me as a pervert for exposing fraud. How sick does the governor have to be to say that the kid exposing the fraud is the bad person? versus the fraudsters that are stealing the money. And going through this experience of exposing this fraud, I finally came to understand why, for instance, why they attack Elon Musk so hard, why they burn down his factories, or why they burn down his cars, or why they attack him so much when he was simply exposing fraud to help every single citizen. Well, it just happens to be that these politicians don't want the fraud to be exposed because they're involved in the fraud. And nowadays, since I've posted that video, my life has changed. It changed a little bit. I'm speaking here in front of all you guys, so thank you. But my life's changed a little bit because the idea that a governor, for instance, Gavin Newsom, can go ahead and post that photo, and everyone knows that I'm not the bad man for exposing the fraud, but a small group will then think, wow, that kid is a bad person. He is what they're trying to depict me to be. That now I have to walk around with security when I go to cities, or people will try to literally. Last time I was in California, I was just there the other day, I couldn't stay at a hotel because last time I was in California, after I posted that fraud video, somebody tried to take a photo and put it into a Reddit group chat, and a group of people were looking for me because I exposed the fraud. Like that's crazy to think that we live in a society nowadays where somebody going to do a big public service for the country has to worry for their life. And it actually makes me a bit upset because how have we gotten to that point where we've lost common sense and where non-controversial issues have become controversial? And it's actually very worrisome. And a lot of people come up to me and say, well, Nick, how can we help? Or how do we do what you did inside our own communities? Or how do you have like the courage to go about and do this? And I've really fallen in love with the quote or the speech from Theodore Roosevelt that's called The Man in the Arena. And it talks about critics and talks about how like you don't ever worry what a critic does as long as you know you're fighting for a worthy cause. And it doesn't matter if you fail as long as you're working for a worthy cause. But who's to say that you're not the one risking everything, standing there all alone, going about it? And why should you worry about the critics? Why should you worry about the naysayers? Or why should you worry about the opposition when you're fighting for a worthy cause? We all are fighting for a worthy cause inside of our communities, with our families, in our churches, at our schools, because a lot of things that we're fighting against are non-controversial issues that have become controversial. No girl should ever have to worry about a man playing on their sports team. Like, the idea that that's become controversial is insane. And it takes men and women who are ready to become that man in the arena to be able to confront the opposition, to confront those critics. Because if no one does, they will win. And when we're fighting for common sense issues that aren't controversial, but nowadays have become controversial, each one of us have to step up and become that person who steps in the arena and says, I don't care what they say, or I don't care what he or she says, I'm going to do it because it's a worthy cause. And if we don't, the critics will win. And their voices are a lot louder. That's how they try to intimidate you. Imagine if I would have been intimidated by Governor Walz calling me a delusional conspiracy theorist, a far-right white supremacist, or all the other things that those politicians called me. In fact, they even incited riots inside their cities for somebody who exposed fraud. Meanwhile, the Leering Center, it wasn't much to hide. Like, that fraud was very obvious. In fact, the Leering Center then even closed down. They fled the city because they know they're committing fraud. And one thing for you guys to think about is, who are the critics? Who are those people that are saying that you're the bad person or that what you're doing is not right? Well, a lot of times it's the media. A lot of the times it's that person who listens to the media where they've lost that idea of common sense thinking. And so nowadays, the most important thing I feel like for any of us to do is to think, okay, is the cause I'm fighting for, is it a controversial issue? Or is it actually non-controversial, but it's an issue that has become controversial from the critics? And we cannot ever pander to the critics, and we have to keep pursuing a worthy cause. Because what we're fighting for is worthy. America is the greatest country in the world. And people like to act like it's not, But meanwhile, all the other countries had thousands of years to do it. We had 250 years to do it. And whatever made us the greatest country in those 250 years, we need to make sure that it remains that same way, or else we will fall and the critics will win, and we will not stay the greatest country in the world. And so that's my message for you guys today, is to think, really, okay, what cause are we fighting for? Is it a worthy cause? Is it something that's actually not controversial, but maybe the mainstream media or a critic has told me that that's a controversial issue? And when you know it's not, fight and be ready to become the man or the woman in the arena, because if you don't, the critics will win. And this is the greatest country in the world for a reason. We did it in 250 years. Everyone else had thousands of years to do it, and we did that. And so I'm proud to be here today, and I know you guys are all ready to become that man or that woman in the arena, because it is a worthy cause that we are fighting for. Thank you. Thank you.
Independent journalist Nick Shirley. He will be 24 years old next week. Pretty impressive. Gen Z is Gen Free. As we thank great freedom lovers and partners here at the network, Rumble Wallet. They fought for free speech. They fought when President Trump was thrown off of platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And now they are fighting for your financial freedom. And we must join them in support of these time-tested and true values here in this great nation. As Nick was stating, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds goes wrong, and who could have done them better. Those immortal words of our 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt. As wallet.rumble.com now available to you. Tip your favorite creators with crypto and Tether Gold, Bitcoin, amongst others. Download for free at the Google Play Store and the App Store. We know that big banks, corporations, can literally turn you off like the lights because you have the so-called wrong opinion. Some think that being on the right side of history is somehow incorrect. So Rumble Wallet created to protect your assets and your savings. Visit wallet.rumble.com in order to protect yourself. What's so amazing about this product? Rumble itself cannot hack nor break into that wallet. It's for you and your family. You have full control over it. And we do know, sadly, in the last few years, how people have been canceled for standing up for the truth. Free speech meets financial freedom. We should support them as much as possible, as they've been so generous to us. It's Rumble with the Rumble Wallet at wallet.rumble.com. Check out that Google Play Store and the App Store. You can also use the Rumble Wallet to make trades and bets at Kalshi.com, whether it's the Final Four going into the end of the Sweet 16 into the Elite 8 over the weekend, with those games happening tonight and throughout the rest of the weekend to end March. But who will be the 2028 Republican national nominee for President of the United States? J.D. Vance, our 50th Vice President, perhaps our 72nd Secretary of State Marco Rubio, or Senator Ted Cruz, Governor Ron DeSantis, just a few names to throw out there. Trade on what's most important, including the opening of baseball back in the springtime, ready to go as those games rolling out over the last couple of days. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade live now. Scan that QR code there. It's sports, politics, music, culture, and more at Kalshi.com/RSBN. We will jump ahead on that topic with fraud all the way up to Cut 36 and see what Vice President J.D. Vance is up to, chairing that very important committee beginning today to see what's happening in Minnesota, to California, Illinois, New York, and beyond. We have had administrations and Article 2 failures in the past, but this administration focused on finding the waste, fraud, and abuse.
Here's the basic problem that we've had in this government going back for probably 30 or 40 years, is that you've never had an administration that has really taken this seriously until the president put us really from day one of the Trump administration, who said, we have to take the fraud issue seriously. And a lot of the anti-fraud protections that existed in our government for a very long time were actually turned off by the Biden administration. So we think fraud has been a problem for a long time. It became a massive, massive problem under the Biden administration. We're going to do a number of things. First of all, we're going to turn back on those anti-fraud protections so that all of these cabinet officials are looking at what's going on and focusing on it. The second thing is that we're going to take a whole-of-government approach. So much of what's going to make the anti-fraud task force work is that we're communicating across different departments. So when Bobby Kennedy is talking to Scott Bessent about things that he's seeing in Medicare and Medicaid, when Scott is seeing things at Treasury, when Brooke is seeing things at Agriculture, when Scott is seeing things at Housing and Urban Development, what we're going to actually do is force the bureaucracy to take this seriously and work together as political principles to make sure that we stop allowing fraudsters to steal the American people's money.
FTC chairman joining the vice president, that being Andrew Ferguson, on this fraud and the state of play here in the United States with cut number 35.
I'd like to begin by thanking President Trump and the vice president for the confidence they put in me to help lead the task force. America is the most generous nation in the history of the world. For decades, Americans have turned over trillions of their tax dollars to social welfare programs to help their neighbors and fellow citizens through hard times. They've done so on the basis of social trust, the belief that their governments, state and federal, will do the right things with their dollars and that their fellow citizens will honestly participate in these programs. Fraud shreds the social trust on which these programs and our entire nation depend. This fraud crisis is thus existential. If we fail to address it, the fabric of our nation will swiftly unravel. And the American people feel like they are getting ripped off, and they're right. As the President's executive order establishing this task force declared, extensive, undetected fraud can only exist in a system that ignores it. And fraud is indeed easy to ignore when grasping politicians are in on the con. For years, the Biden administration and its allies in Democrat-run states knew of this corruption in our federal benefits programs and did nothing about it. Their failures have robbed every American citizen of their tax dollars, but even worse, they've deprived American citizens who actually need these services. Every dollar diverted to a fake hospice or a fake autism center, every dollar paid to an upcoding hospital deprives an American citizen who needs these essential services. Fraud, therefore, wounds the neediest among us, the very people that Americans want to help when they fund our social welfare programs. Finally, we have a president who is doing something about this corruption crisis. We are here today because President Trump and Vice President Vance won't ignore it. And we won't ignore the public officials who have facilitated it. Our work on this task force will be to develop a comprehensive national strategy to combat the corruption of our federal benefits programs and to assist the Department of Justice in prosecuting those who have corrupted them. In doing so, we will restore the social trust that has been lost because of mismanagement and fraud. The presence today of so many members of the President's cabinet, including the Vice President himself, is a testimony to the importance of our work and its priority in this administration. Together, we can remove the scourge of fraud in our federal benefits programs, and we can restore public confidence in their efficacy and integrity. I look forward to our important work.
We are proud to partner with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, 25% off now through Tuesday, March 31st on all medications site-wide. If you're someone who believes in medical freedom and the right to try and off-label generics that can cost or save you some money in the process and get away from the corporate-bound big pharma and pharmacies that tend to not prescribe these great life-saving medications, then the MAGA movement deserves you and this great allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. People who are frustrated with the healthcare system that puts bureaucracy and government before the patient no longer have to worry. If you don't have insurance, no red tape, no hassle, again, no bureaucracy, simply a pharmaceutical note. A U.S. licensed doctor on the other end reviews that order, sends it right back to your door. Life-saving meds like antibiotics to antivirals, Tamiflu, big this time of year, nasal sprays for the spring season, and ivermectin to hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, and emergency medical kits that can have you feeling great when you might be feeling a little bit down. RSBN 25, that is the code right now, and smart to have with spring here but still a cold and flu season affecting us on a grand scale across the country. Smart to have these life-saving medications stocked up and ready to go with over 400 options at the website. Take a moment, scan that QR code. Once again, 25% off through Tuesday, March 31st. It is allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN25 for 25% off. Also, thank you to Birch Gold for peace of mind during inflationary times, disputes, rising national debt, digital currency. How do you diversify your savings and assets? As the dollar goes down, gold skyrocketing over 700% in the last 2 decades. So text Trump to 989898 for a free info kit on gold. Diversify the IRAs and 401ks in your life. With this commodity on earth, we are very grateful for precious metals, especially gold is a crucial part of a balanced strategy for a tax-sheltered IRA or 401k program, perhaps both with the Birch Gold Group. They can help you convert on your existing plans and provide retirement advice second to none. So text Trump to 989898. Get started today with the best in the business and that free info kit on gold by Birch Gold Group. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we await President Trump any moment to speak at the F2 summit in beautiful Miami, Florida, Stephen Miller, his special assistant on the Minnesota fraud, describing what is or has been found, in addition to what the new task force on fraud will be working on with cut number 34.
Thank you to the Vice President for your leadership in establishing this task force and for gathering us all here today. And I have some personal behind-the-scenes experience with talking to the Vice President and seeing how resolutely determined he was at the very first exposure of some of these shocking discoveries to create, establish, and launch this task force. And if you knew what I knew about the people at this table, you would understand just how committed this government, this administration is to ending this massive theft of American taxpayer dollars. The people at this table are all united in absolute determination to stop this plague of fraud, criminality, and abuse. I think what's important for Americans to understand about how pervasive and widespread the fraud is that all of our systems were set up and established for a high-trust society. I think that most citizens probably assume that there's some verification process that takes place for the receipt of most federal benefits. The reality is that there is not. This is particularly true in blue states, willfully true in blue states, in which all of these programs are operated entirely on the honor system. No verification takes place before individuals are enrolled in or receive these benefits. So as a simple example, if you're a Somali refugee living in Minnesota, you could lie about how many children you have. You could lie about what your immigration status is. You could lie about your marital status. You could lie about child care. You could lie about disability. You could lie about all these things and many more. And nobody in the state of Minnesota would validate any of these facts before writing you a check. We at the federal government are simply sent a bill from the state of Minnesota for the cost of providing these services in the aggregate. So to take the food stamp program as an example, SNAP, and that of course is administered by Secretary Rollins, we do not know the names of any SNAP recipient in the state of Minnesota. We just get a blank check. We have asked the state repeatedly and tried to compel the state unsuccessfully to turn over their SNAP enrollment rolls so we could ascertain such basic facts as, are these people even legally eligible to receive these benefits? And the state has refused, absolutely categorically refused. And in fact, the state has spent millions of dollars in court for the singular purpose of trying to prevent the state from ascertaining the identity of a single SNAP recipient in the entire state of Minnesota. Think about what this does to public trust, social trust, people's faith in the system, right? Imagine in a community, a working class community in the Twin Cities, say a native Minnesotan who works as a lineman or works as a construction worker, works in any job that requires hard work, dedication, focus, who's worried about his ability to support for and provide his family. And then imagine that he has a neighbor who's a Somali refugee who arrived 2 years ago and has a Mercedes and no financial stress and no worries at all in the entire world and never seems to ever go to work at all because he just went to an office in the state, lied on a piece of paper, and got unlimited free money forever for life. That is the system that is being run, and that is the corruption that this task force under the leadership of the Vice President is going to demolish. And I'll just conclude by saying that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the atrocity that is taking place in Congress with congressional Democrats fighting relentlessly to abolish the very federal agencies that are responsible for policing and investigating fraud as well as all matters of homeland and national security. I see, of course, a new secretary who has just been confirmed to DHS, my good friend, Mark Wayne Mullen. He now takes command of a department whose men and women have been working without pay for weeks on end to protect and defend the American people, to protect and defend our coastlines, to protect and defend our families. Well, they've been treated with nothing but derision, hatred, and contempt by congressional Democrats. It is legislative terrorism. It is one of the greatest abominations that has ever occurred in the history of this country, and it's to the everlasting and eternal shame of the Democrat Party. Again, thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership and vision in establishing this task force. I'm proud to serve on and under your leadership. Thank you.
The Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, spitting facts there as we are about to approach a big speech in Miami, Florida, cut number 29. President Trump previewing it moments from now as we take you to the F2 summit, simply stating that it's going to make a big speech on economics in Miami. The president, that is. Our military operation in Iran is going great, President DJT, as he's encouraging the elimination of the filibuster, signing that executive order en route to Miami to fund, at least temporarily, the TSA agents who have gone 42 days without that funding. President Trump stating with cut 30, the Republicans should terminate the filibuster and vote. Haven't they had enough of this nonsense from the radical left lunatics that are looking to destroy our country, make America great again? President Donald J. Trump. So the House side of this now responding to what the Senate did early in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, that early, and responding with something that they could come back on Monday to deal with. We'll watch all of that and perhaps have some breaking news for you as House Speaker Mike Johnson, as of a couple hours ago, has completely rejected that package from John Thune, Chuck Schumer, and the Senate. We'll toss it there to Miami, Florida now, and the President of the United States.
Continues to shape the global economic and political landscape. For the second consecutive year, at FII Miami, we are privileged to host the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today.
very much. Thank you very much. A lot of rich people in this audience. I'm looking left, right, center, all the way in the back. They're rich too. But I'm thrilled to be back with so many friends and partners, leaders and innovators here at the Future Investment Initiative. And it's a really great group of people, very smart group of people. They know what's happening in the world. It's my second address to the conference as President of the United States, and it's my honor to be here. Thank you very much. As you know, we're gathered at a moment of bold action and historic decision to make America and our allies safer and stronger, more prosperous, more successful than ever before. And that's what's happening. Tonight, we're closer than ever to the rise of the Middle East that is finally free at last from Iranian terror, aggression, and nuclear blackmail. That's what's happened. It was nuclear blackmail for years and years. And beyond that, it was blackmail, period. Under my leadership, America is ending the threat posed by this radical regime, decimating Iran's capabilities with Operation Epic Fury, something that nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. We have the most powerful military in the world by far. I built it in my first term. Remember, I said $1 trillion. They all said, what do you mean $1 trillion? $1 trillion. Every year, another trillion the next, another trillion. We have the best people. We have by far the best equipment. We have weapons that nobody's ever seen before. We have weapons that nobody even knows about, except for a few of us. For 47 years, Iran has been known as the bully of the Middle East, but they are not the bully any longer. They're on the run. Last June, America's armed forces obliterated Iran's key nuclear facilities in one of the most spectacular military actions of all time. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. In the dead of night, no moon, 1 o'clock in the morning, we went in. It was called Operation Midnight Hammer. And every single one of those bombs hit their mark. Air shafts. They will never build an air shaft again, I promise you that. They went right down that granite mountain through air shafts. Most incredible technology you've ever seen, that a thing like that. And it was decimation, it was obliteration. One of the networks said, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. It was that bad. Turned out to be even more than we thought. But after that attack, the Iranian lunatics refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. And I have to say, before that, Barack Hussein Obama, did you ever hear of him? Barack Hussein Obama, he had the Iran nuclear deal. He went to Iran. He paid him. Remember, he sent two Boeing 757 jetliners. They took the seats out and they piled it with cash, like 1.7 billion of cash. That's when I realized the president is very powerful. The presidency is a very powerful thing. When you can do that, I haven't done that yet. I haven't found a reason to do that yet, but that's big. 1.7 billion in cash. You know, there wasn't a bank in DC, Virginia, or Maryland that had any money after that disaster. But they sent the cash to Iran. But more importantly, they signed an agreement, the Iran nuclear deal, which if I didn't terminate it in my first term, I terminated it almost immediately. If I didn't terminate it, they would have had a nuclear weapon long ago, and they would have used it on the Middle East, Israel, and the Middle East. And you know the Middle East because when you look at all the missiles that got fired, UAE had 1,500 missiles shot at it. They didn't think they were going to have any. Saudi Arabia didn't expect to have, I mean, we have the most powerful Saudis. Oh, yes, sir, you are so powerful. But yes, sir, you didn't expect any missiles going to Saudi Arabia. They didn't expect them in Qatar. They didn't expect them in Kuwait, in Bahrain. The missiles rained down on you. They were going to hit you with nuclear or whatever they had. But we stopped it. We stopped it. We stopped it with him. And then there was a big moment also in my first administration when I took out Soleimani. And a lot of people think that might have been the biggest thing of all because he was a mad genius. He was a vicious, horrible human being, but he was a great general and a great leader, if you call if you define a leader in a certain way, very, very powerful leader. In fact, he was so powerful that I really think that the leadership of Iran was extremely happy when I took him out, but they don't say that, but nobody's going to be asking him anymore because they're not here either. But getting the termination and terminating the Iran nuclear deal that was done by Biden and Obama, I would say mostly Obama. Actually, I don't think Biden knew where he was then, too. He had no idea. If you said to him, the Iran nuclear, what's that? But there was 4 years of hell we had with this guy as our leader, I'll tell you. And then we hit him with the B-2 bomber, so we did it twice. But if they would have had a nuclear weapon, it would have been a whole big deal. And I wouldn't be here right now, and probably you guys wouldn't be too happy. You might be in an area, who knows where you would have been. But we did it twice. And I really believe we saved the Middle East. We saved not just Israel, we saved the Middle East. And it was proven by all those rockets that fired down upon you. Saudi Arabia got hit a lot. You all got hit, and nobody expected any missiles to be wasted. You would have thought they were only going at Israel. They weren't. As President of the United States, I would never allow the world's #1 state sponsor of terror to obtain a nuclear weapon. I said that for a long time. And I didn't. To defend America and our allies over the past 27 days, the U.S. Armed Forces, most powerful in the world, have been annihilating Iran's military capacity with force, precision, skill like the world has never seen. It was violence, actually, really violence. We're crushing Iran's currently, as we speak. I just looked. We had another big day. We hit them. They don't know what's happening. Remember this. They lied about 3 days ago. I said, yeah, we're negotiating with Israel. We are not negotiating. They're being hit so hard, anybody would be negotiating. They are negotiating. They're begging to make a deal. They're begging to make a deal. Turned out I was right. They were negotiating, which they admitted 2 days later. And in order to make up for their misstatement, they said, we're going to send you 8 ships of oil. And the following day I saw, this is 2 days ago, I saw on one of the networks, very strange, there were 8 ships of oil coming out of Iran. And then they actually said, we're going to add an extra 2. And they added an extra 2, so we had 10 ships. And then people realized we were actually negotiating. And we're negotiating now, and it'd be great if we could do something, but they have to open it up. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me for this. I'm so sorry. Such a terrible mistake. The fake news will say, he accidentally said, no. There's no accidents with me, not too many. If there were, we'd have a major story. No, well, we had that with the Gulf of Mexico. Remember the Gulf of Mexico? And one day I said, why is it the Gulf of Mexico? We have 92% of the area around it. They have 8%, really less than 8%. But for 350 years, it was good. You know, they were there 100 years longer than us, Mexico. They're at 350, we're at 250. And I said, I've often asked myself, why do we call it the Gulf of Mexico? It seems like we dominate. Well, when I checked, it was more than 92%. So I announced, I wouldn't say Mexico was thrilled, but I announced that from now on, the Gulf of Mexico is going to be called the Gulf of America. And it took about 1 hour, and it was done. Everybody, the president called me. She's really a nice person, too. I like her a lot. She called up. She had the most beautiful voice. She's a very elegant woman, has a beautiful, beautiful voice. She goes, President, tell me, this is not so. No, it's so. Oh, it's so. And then Google Maps changed it. We won the court case in about 1 hour, and Google Maps changed the name. And it's now the Gulf of America, which it should be, in all fairness. We're crushing Iran's weapons stockpiles, destroying their missiles and drone factories at levels nobody ever thought was possible, and turning their defense industrial base into nothing. Iran's navy is gone. It's all sunk at the bottom of the Gulf and elsewhere. Did you see the attack submarine that we have one after one of their boats? It was called the Soleimani. It was the pride of their fleet. But this attack submarine goes like 60 miles an hour. I never saw anything. And it caught them in about 2 minutes. And that was the end of the Soleimani. Now, then they're 100% dead. They have 22 mine droppers. They call them mine droppers. And the mine droppers, 22, all 22 are gone. So I guess they can drop mines, but they're going to have to take them out by a rowboat because they don't have any boats. Their Air Force is dead, totally, completely dead. It's out of business. No planes left at all. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled and dead. And their leaders are all dead. Other than that, I think they're doing quite well. No, their leaders are dead. Their supreme leader is no longer supreme. He's dead. His son is either dead or in very bad shape because nobody's heard from him. I think he says, just keep me out of this. This is the only country where nobody wants to lead. There's nobody. Who would like to lead Iran? Please raise your hand, a big audience of distinguished. Who would like to be our leader? Dead silent. Nobody wants to lead. Now, we have an amazing military. We have the greatest intelligence apparatus that anybody's ever seen. We can tell you everything that's going on. We know everything that's going on. We're achieving each and every one of the military objectives I laid out less than 4 weeks ago. And we're doing it really, I guess, we're 2 weeks ahead of schedule. We're not into it very long. We wouldn't have thought we would have been. We knew it was going to be easy. We call it a military operation. We don't call it a war. We call it a military operation. We're very disappointed, by the way, with NATO. They didn't come to our aid. I didn't try too hard, actually, because I wanted to prove a point. I didn't sell. They probably think I'm a lousy salesman. I said, would you like to help us? To President of France, Macron, nice guy. He is a nice guy. They said, Emmanuel, would you like to help? Yes. As soon as the war is over, we will send ships. I said, no. I don't want them when the war is over. I want them before we start. And UK, our longest ally, nobody ever thought this was possible. I said to the Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, we'd like you to have 2 aircraft carriers. They're little ones. They're not very good. I know they don't go fast, and I know they don't work very well, but we could probably use them, maybe for helicopters. And they said, yes, we are preparing them. I see, when will they be ready? Maybe in a month or 2. Oh, great, that's wonderful. I said, are you going to help us? Yes, we're going to help you when the war is finished. We will be there. This is NATO. And I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. And I've always said we help NATO, but they'll never help us. And if the big one ever happened, and I don't think it will, but if the big one ever happened, I guarantee you they wouldn't be there. And we learned from that. And remember what I said, because they made a big mistake. They were not there. The Chancellor of Germany, these are all friends of mine, Friedrich, the Chancellor of Germany, he said, this is not our war. We have nothing to do. Well, Ukraine's not our war, but we help them. I wouldn't have had to help. If I were president, that war would have never happened. But we had a man of a very low IQ as president, and he had no idea what the hell he was. I was listening to him talk. I said, he's forcing an issue that's going to be trouble, and it turned out to be trouble. Last week, 28,000 soldiers died. The week before that, 32,000 soldiers died. I think we're going to get it settled, but it's a terrible thing. Worse since World War II. I settled 8 wars, and this should have been one of the easier ones, but the hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky is extreme. Never good. Hatred's a bad thing when you're trying to settle a war. I want to thank the entire kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Been very helpful, unlike NATO. Saudi Arabia fought, Qatar fought, UAE fought, Bahrain fought, and Kuwait fought, even though they shot down 3 of our planes with the finest missiles. We could have done without that. They didn't know they were our planes. They wasted 3 great Patriot missiles, and you have to say there's nothing like these Patriots. We had an attack of 101 a few days ago. 101 missiles shot at a very valuable thing that we had floating on the water, namely an aircraft carrier, biggest in the world. And they were shot, 101, going 2,500 miles an hour. And out of the 101 missiles shot, 101 missiles were shot down and spread out all over the sea. Pretty amazing. That's called incredible technology, right, Steve? That's called great technology. Think of it, 101 missiles going 2,500 miles an hour. You don't have a lot of time. And these aren't necessarily weightlifting shoulders. These are very smart people doing that. And I watched them. I watched their performance. Missiles launched. It's almost like they're bored by it. They have like 9 seconds ahead of FIFA, the most powerful man in sports. Johnny, you never choked, right? These guys can't choke, but they're very smart. High IQs. We need high IQs. We have too many low IQ people. But what happened is, you have to see it. It's very cool. Missiles launched, missiles launching. They're launching. Okay, we're ready. 101 missiles coming at them. All right, we have to have like 11 seconds to make a determination. Then at 7 seconds, fire. It's the most unbelievable thing. Fire, boom. One at a time, just knocked them out like they were nothing. Genius, it's like unbelievable. I mean, to think and we have the technology nobody has. Look at what happened in Venezuela. They had other equipment, not ours. They made the mistake of using other equipment. Didn't work too well. And Venezuela took 45 minutes. It was a 45-minute war. This one's bigger. It's a bigger country, a lot more powerful. It's a lot more powerful, but it's not powerful anymore. Within 2 days, I think the damage was done, but now it's really done. Now we're just going after targets, and they have no anti-aircraft, so we're just floating over the top looking for whatever we want, and we're hitting it, and we have another 3,554 targets left. And that'll be done pretty quickly. And then at some point, we're going to have to determine what we do. But they've never seen anything like it. When we hit Venezuela, that's a very strong military country. They have soldiers. If you've ever been there, I've been there. They have a lot of soldiers walking around all over the place. Everyone's a soldier. Very military kind of a place. And there was a general, professional general, really good. And he said, we were all set for him. We knew there was a problem when we noticed at 1 o'clock in the morning, every 32 seconds, another airplane, a very fast plane, was coming off the deck of an aircraft carrier. That's actually the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. And every 32 seconds, boom. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. So we said, okay, I think we're in trouble. But they were ready for us, Johnny. And we were ready. He said, we were ready. And then they hit us, and they came from 17 different angles. They were here, they were there. We ran for our lives. It was over. And it was over. And then we took this guy who was a very bad guy, and within literally minutes, he was in the back of a helicopter in a house that was in a big military base with thousands and thousands of soldiers. The house was all steel, with steel doors, steel everything. They had the small steel doors, the big doors. We were equipped for anything. Even the big one would have been opened within 30 seconds. They walked in with blow torches. And within minutes, he was out of the house, being thrown into the helicopter, sailing away. And the soldiers just looked. Bye. Enjoy your trip, sir. It was amazing. It was but this is more amazing what's happening now, because we took a very strong country. I could see the problem you would have had. I mean, this was not a weak country. This was a strong country. They had over 10,000 missiles that they accumulated since October 2nd, if you think. Since the B-2s, they accumulated them in a matter of months, 6 months. But they had well over 10,000. They had rocket launchers. Rocket launchers are more important than the rockets. Because you take a rocket launcher out, that's the end of that. People think you can take those big rockets and throw them out your window, like when you were a child with the paper airplanes. You said, it doesn't work that way. You need those launchers, and we knocked out now 97% of the launchers. That's why you may be attacked, but you're not being attacked with very heavy numbers of missiles like at the beginning. But in particular, I want to thank my friend, the Crown Prince Mohammed, who is a fantastic man and a great friend of mine, and a friend of all of yours, I think. And he's a warrior. He's a warrior. He was not afraid of this country that, frankly, he should have been afraid of because they're very powerful. I want to thank Tamim, because Tamim is, these three people have been unbelievable. Tamim, and then UAE, Mohammed. These are three great people. And they were under tremendous attack, unexpected attack. And they weren't thinking this was going to happen. Nobody was. And they turned against them and really became very powerfully aligned. And they were with us, but they weren't with us very obliquely. They were with us. But I think that I have to acknowledge for their bravery, because they were being hit pretty hard. All three of them, they were being hit pretty hard. The Emir, Mohammed, you had two Mohammeds and a Tamim, and they're friends of mine. And also I have to say that Bahrain and Kuwait, they were stand up, more so than NATO, I want to say, more so than NATO. Now, they're a little closer to the action than NATO in all fairness, but very disappointed with NATO. But I wasn't disappointed with our allies in the Middle East and others. And others. We had tremendous support from countries that were not in the general area, but they were tremendously supportive. I think Turkey was fantastic, actually fantastic, and they stayed out of things that we asked them to, and he's a great leader. He's a great leader. And Indonesia was great. We had so many great, you learn who your friends are, really do. You learn who your friends are. And, but Indonesia, Turkey, and so many other countries. But the five were great. But your dear friend and my dear friend he was all man. He stood up and he wasn't scared. Maybe he was, I don't know, maybe he was, but he didn't show it. He was great, a great leader. Saudi Arabia can be very proud of because he's got a lot of titles. He's the Crown Prince. He's the Prime Minister. He's the future king. He's got about 7 other titles. I said, you have more titles than any human being on earth. He's everything. And he deserves to be because he's a winner. So I just want to thank those people. So the Middle East will be transformed, and the future of that region I don't think it's ever looked brighter. You couldn't have, we did the Abraham Accords. I hope you're going to be getting into the Abraham Accords finally. Yeah, so will you please go back and explain? It's time now. Mohammed said, oh, yes, as soon as we do this, as soon as we do that. I said, Mohammed, we did that. Oh, yes, but we have a couple of other things. It's now time. We've now taken them out, and they are out bigly. We got to get into the Abraham Accords. And we hope all of the countries are going to be in the Abraham Accords. We have some very brave countries that did it, years ago. They went in, and you know who they are, the early four, and they did a great thing in doing it, and it was great for them also economically, but it was a great thing that they did it. But I think all the Middle Eastern countries are going to be joining now. And in some cases, I would say all the Middle Eastern countries and beyond. You have people not in the Middle East that want to be members. You'll be seeing that soon. In the meantime, the conflict in Iran also makes it absolutely vital for the radical left Democrats in Congress to immediately end their dangerous shutdown of our Department of Homeland Security. They want to play games. That's all they are. These people are lunatics. They sort of remind me actually a little bit of Iran. They're deranged. They're deranged Democrats. For 42 days, they've tried to completely eliminate funding for the number one duty of government, which is keeping America safe. And they want no ICE. They want no Border Patrol. They want no protection of any kind to be given, reopening our borders and stopping all immigration enforcement in our country. They want to have our borders be open again. We took in 25 million people. We've gotten a lot of them out. Tremendous numbers of people that should never have been here. Over 4 long years before my election, these same radical, lunatic Democrats let 25 million people pour across our borders like they were nothing, like they were non-existent. These people were totally unvetted, unchecked, including murderers, drug dealers, gang members, vicious criminals, even the criminally insane. In 2024, the American people voted in a landslide to stop the invasion of our country. And I won all 7 swing states by millions and millions of votes. We won the Electoral College by a massive number. We won the popular vote, millions and vote, just millions. This was a big election. I loved every minute of it. And for the first time, no Republicans done anything like this in decades, but for the first time, we won the counties of America. That's a big one. 2,700 to 525. 2,700 to 525. 87% of the vote. We won 87% of the counties. In other words, it was a mandate like our country has not seen in many decades. It was a mandate for an ideology, which is an ideology basically of common sense. We want strong borders. We want a powerful military. We want good education. We want to have homes for people and low interest rates and no inflation. And right now, my polls are better than they've ever been before. You know, I heard the other day, I think that he's losing the MAGA base. I said, really? Because of the war. See, I get into a war. Of course, they call it a war. I call it a military conflict. But there's a legal reason for that. But you get into a war or a military operation or conflict for you, and then they say, my base. I said, no. MAGA's stronger than ever because MAGA's make America great again. But my MAGA people, which is the greatest phrase in the history of politics, it's the most important movement by far, probably in the history of the world. I mean, you know, there's never been anything like this. And in fact, just a few days ago, you have to understand, the fake news right back, oh, that's a lot of fake news. Yeah, so you brought a lot of fake news with you. They must know you're going to make a speech at some point because look at the, but what happened is the fake news was saying, he may, they hope, you know, it's like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy. They say, he may be losing his MAGA base. And that would be maybe the end of him. And then I happened to be watching CNN, which is terrible. They treat me terribly. In fact, just a few days ago, CNN had a poll that had me at 100% of MAGA voters. They said they've never seen anything like that. Can you put that up? I actually said if you could put it up. Do you have the technology to put it up? Go ahead, give it a shot.
You know, sometimes you look at the polling data and there are numbers that just jump off the screen at you, and this is one of those. Because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approved 100%. 100%. If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
Good technology, thank you. I figured you'd have good tech. I said, I wonder if they could put that poll up. We just did it 2 minutes ago. No, but I was watching this and I'm hearing them saying, could he be losing the MAGA base? I don't think so. You know why? Because MAGA wants to win, number one. Number two, they want our country protected. They don't want another country out there that's hostile and crazy to have a nuclear weapon. And number three, they like us protecting certain allies, whether it's Israel or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or UAE, any of them. They want that. MAGA wants strength and they want victory. They want success. And that's what we have. And we have been very, very successful. You know, when I went into Venezuela, I said, because I campaigned on the fact peace through strength, you wouldn't have to use. I built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it. But sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way. But pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that. Please, 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 media, please Disregard that statement. Thank you very much. Cuba's next. So despite the radical left Democrat shutdown, we will continue to defend the sovereign borders of the United States of America, and we'll defend our allies. And your ally, you didn't know they were that tough, did you? You didn't know. They were pretty tough, Iran. Not tough anymore. Now we'll continue to deport dangerous criminal aliens from our country. Just days ago, an 18-year-old girl in Chicago named Sheridan Gorman was gunned down by a savage criminal alien led in by Sleepy Joe Biden and released in a Democrat sanctuary city. He was an animal. The same month, an 83-year-old veteran, highly regarded person, was shoved onto the subway tracks and murdered by an illegal alien with a long criminal history in New York City. These are vicious criminal thugs, disgusting human beings that Democrats have defunded our airports to protect. They want our airports to be defunded so that these people can come into our country. Not going to happen. We're not going to have it. That's why this week I deployed ICE to our airports to help reduce the delays. People there are doing a great job, but they didn't want to pay them. The Democrats didn't want to pay them. And a short time ago, I also ordered emergency funding to resume paying the TSA agents immediately. They're getting paid. Democrats must stop their dangerous and destructive shutdown and reopen the Department of Homeland Security without delay. And it's time that they start thinking properly. That's why they lost in such a landslide and put America first. It's time that they start thinking about America first. And we're honored to be joined tonight by many distinguished guests from around the world, including FII Institute Chairman Yasser Al-Romayan. Where are you, Yasser? Come here, stand up. Yes, yes, please. What a nice name. What a nice name. And his son, Faisal. And by the way, I've known him really well, but I've never heard his last name. So I'm saying, who the hell is Yasser? I know Yasser. I said, who the hell is that guy? But I know him by Yasser, right? I didn't know if it was your first name or your last name. All I know is he's got a lot of power. All I know is he's got a lot of cash. And he's another great leader, actually, and he's a good friend of mine. So nice to be with you, and nice to be with your son. Son's beautiful. Saudi Minister of Finance, Mohammed Al-Jadaan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nice to see you again. Good job. I mean, if you want to be a Minister of Finance, Saudi Arabia is a good place to do it, right? You don't have any dearth. There's no dearth of funds. Most places, they say, where are we going to get the money? How about a tax increase? Minister of State, Mohammed Al-Sheikh. Mohammed. Thank you very much. Great honor. Chairman of the Saudi Esports Federation, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal. And of course, please. Thank you. And of course, the kingdom's wonderful ambassador to the United States, Her Royal Highness Princess Rima, who's great. She's great. Also, I want to thank the president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio. I love that name. Thank you. Great honor to have you. And chairman of the FII Institute Executive Committee, Richard Attias. Thank you, Richard. As well as special envoy, I call him Henry Kissinger, who doesn't leak. Because Henry is a big leaker. Richard Nixon would beat him. Henry, somebody's leaking on us. There's somebody leaking. Henry would say, we'll get to the bottom. It was Henry that was leaking. That wasn't good. So we have Henry Kissinger, better than Henry Kissinger, and he doesn't leak. Special envoy, Steve Witkoff. Thank you, Steve. Doing a great job. And he and Jared Kushner, they're like a team, and boy, I tell you, they're a good team. High IQ. It's a high IQ team. You want to find your high IQ people. Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Michael Kratsios, a Greek individual. Where's Michael? He was at the Greek event. Hi, Michael. He was at the Greek event yesterday, so I know he's Greek. They asked me, please, sir, Would you introduce Michael? CMS administrator, a phenomenal man, a brilliant man. You know, he had a show on television for like 20 years that was so great. I was on his show. He said, would you do me a favor? Would you go on my show? I said, yeah, I'll go on your show. It's a big show. It was very successful. And I went on his show, and he determined that I should lose weight. This is what I went through. He said, I think you should lose weight. I said, I don't need you saying that in front of millions of people. You don't have to tell me that. But he's a great guy, and I don't know how he ever got the job after that, but he's the most powerful man, actually. Medicine, him and Bobby. What a team. Bobby is great. He's great. Dr. Oz, you know that, Mehmet Oz. And they're coming up with things that are amazing, a little out of the box, but the out of the box guys are really finding things that are amazing. Autism, that's so important to us. We want to find out why is it happening in such large numbers all over the world, but why is it happening in our country all over the world? And you're coming up with some pretty impressive studies and answers. A really good friend of mine, the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, and Johnny is great. You know, when I didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, you got to understand, I don't care. Norway has lost so credible. I stopped 8 wars. I even stopped India and Pakistan. And they were going at it for a week. They had 9 planes already shot down. They were in a war. I stopped them. You know how I stopped them? I said, if you keep fighting, I'm going to put a 250% tariff on each one. No, you cannot do that. I said, I'm doing it. All right, we won't fight anymore. That's how I stopped them. I used tariffs to stop. You ever hear of anything like that? It was too much for them to bear. But they were going to be in a war. And the prime minister, actually a great guy, the prime minister of Pakistan said President Trump saved 30 to 50 million people, 2 nuclear countries. What happened? And I figured, if I don't get the Nobel Prize for Peace, nobody will ever get it. I didn't get it. I'm not surprised. I didn't get it. And the person that got it was shocked. She's a wonderful woman, too, by the way. And she said, no, I don't deserve it. President Trump does. Nobody deserves it. Nobody ever does. I stopped 8 wars, Yasser. Do you know what that is? 8 wars. You didn't stop 8 wars. You started 8 wars, Yasser. I stopped 8 wars. But it was a little early because, in all fairness, it was for the year before, right? It was for 24. But still, you thought they would have made an exception. But they didn't do that. You watch what happens. But it was sort of amazing. So she was so nice, and she actually came to the White House, and she presented me with her award. She's a wonderful woman. But stopping wars is, I think, it's the best. I think I do it the best. I stopped wars that nobody thought. President Putin called me. He said, I can't believe you stopped this one and this one, which are impossible. Azerbaijan, it was an impossible war to stop. We stopped it. But we also have a man who's probably good at stopping wars. I know he's good at being a tough guy. He is a tough guy. He's been very tough on crime, and he's done a great job. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez is here someplace. Francis, hi. How are you? And we have our great son. He's got the best genes, I think, of any human being I've ever known. He's my son, Don Trump. Don, he's a great guy. And his fiancée, Bettina. Good, Bettina, good. No, my son's got the greatest genes in history. I'm a big believer in genes, by the way, I will tell you. My daughter, Tiffany, and her husband, Michael. My beautiful daughter, great, and they have a new child, the most beautiful guy we've seen, right? Blows us all away, right? He's great. Thank you for being here. And countless other business leaders. We have so many friends of mine here, so many business leaders, but we can't go on because we have a couple of moments more to discuss the world and the economy. Over the past 14 months, the Trump administration has achieved perhaps the most dramatic one-year turnaround of any nation in all of history. A short time ago, a man that we just discussed, the king, the future king of Saudi Arabia, and I also love the king of Saudi Arabia. What a man he is. When I was there, we bonded. he would grab me to get up. He was a little frail at the time, and this was a long time ago, and he's still doing well. And he'd grab my arm to get up when I was sitting next to him. And they said that's the only time he's ever grabbed anybody. He would grab me all the time. And I said, I think he likes me. And he did like me, and he still likes me. And he's a great man, and say hello to him. He's a great guy with a great son. But a short time ago, we were together, and he looked at me, and he said, you know, it's amazing. 1 year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. He didn't think this was going to happen. He didn't think he'd be kissing my ass. He really didn't. He thought he'd be just another American president that was a loser, where the country was going downhill. But now he has to be nice to me. You tell him he better be nice to me. He's got to be. But it was really something. He said, though, he said, you know, it's amazing, President, because he's a very smart, but a regular kind of a guy. He said, you know, it's amazing, President. A year ago, in that case, it was a year and a half. It was 6 months ago. But a year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're literally the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that was before we beat the hell out of Iran. You know, now I think he's got to say even better. I think we have to up it. But he's fantastic. And everything we do, we're working to make America the #1 place on earth to do business. We passed the largest tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. We provided 100% expensing and bonus depreciation so that anyone who wants to build a factory can deduct the entire cost of equipment and the entire factory in the first year. That used to take 38 years to do. You'd take it little drips. Now it's done. And you know, a lot of people remember that my first 4 years was the most successful time we've ever had financially in the history of our country. We had an unbelievable success, but this is much better. And by the way, when this war ends, it's going to be like a rocket ship. I thought we were going to go down more, and I thought oil prices were going to go up higher than they are now. It's not finished yet. I'm not saying it's sort of finished, but it's not finished. It's got to be finished. And I thought that we would see a bigger drop in stock. It hasn't been that bad. You know, it's sort of crazy. I hit 50,000 on the Dow. People said that wouldn't be possible within 4 years. I did it in 1 year. And then we hit 7,000 on the S&P. People said that's even harder than hitting 50,000 on the Dow. And I did that in less than 1 year. Toward the end of the year, both of them, we broke every record, every stock record we broke. And you're big beneficiaries because so many of you invest in the United States, and keep doing it because it's going to be a rocket ship. You watch. But then I said, all right, do I have to do this? We have a country that's sick and demented, and they have a nuclear weapon, or they want to have one. They were very close to getting it. Remember, they were 2 weeks away. They were 2 weeks away. If we didn't hit that, I call it the nuclear dust. I use the term nuclear dust. If we didn't knock the hell out of them, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 to 4 weeks, and they would have used it on you and on Israel and on everyone else. And I said, we really do have to stop and go on a little different journey for a little while and take them out and then go back to life. And that's what we did. And we did it violently. We did it powerfully. We did it with the respect of the world. And we helped a lot of allies. And we learned about other allies. We learned that other allies weren't there. We didn't need them, but they weren't there if we did need them. And that's going to be very costly for them. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election, adding $9 trillion in value to America's savings and retirement accounts and 401ks. Everybody's benefiting by this. And more Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. At any time. To me, that's the #1 stat. More Americans are working today, by far, than at any time in the history of our country. And in 14 months, we've lifted 3.3 million Americans off of food stamps. That's a record. And Biden and his allies wrecked our country. They wreaked havoc on our economy, and they gave us the worst inflation in American history. Under Trump, during the last 3 months of 2025, we got core inflation down to 1.6%. And right now, the average tax refund for filers, because of the great big beautiful bill, has been close to $5,000. It's a lot of money for a family. And this, you know, when I'm talking to Saudi Arabia and I'm talking about $5,000, they'd look at me, 5,000? That's like a penny, right, David? That's like a penny. Saudi Arabia is not into $5,000, but it's Saudi Arabia. I just want to ask, are the Saudis impressed by the fact that a family has saved $5,000? I know they're looking like, what the hell is 5,000? Their shoes cost them more than 5,000. But that's the way it goes. We're talking about, remember, we're talking about the real world. In his entire term, Joe Biden, I have two terms for him, Crooked Joe and Sleepy Joe. It's always been pretty, you know, I do sometimes a poll, which is a more accurate term, sleepy or crooked, pretty much even. I like sleepy. In his entire term, Sleepy Joe Biden got less than $1 trillion of new investment in the United States, a lot less. And in our first 11 months, 12th month is coming, it's going to be big, we did $18 trillion. Think of it, less than $1 trillion for 4 years. In 11 months, we did $18 trillion. And we have factories being built all over the country at a level that's never been seen before. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I allow these plants and everything to build their own electricity. Well, we need big electricity. They're all building their own electricity. But a lot of it has to do with the tax bill, a lot of them, because it's really the biggest tax reduction bill in history, the great big beautiful bill. And a lot of it has to do with the one-year deductibility where you build a plant and you take the whole thing as a deduction. I did that in my first term also, but I had it for 1 year. Now I have it for 10 years. So it's pretty amazing, and it's pretty amazing what we're seeing. But it all started with our historic visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. My first visit was to the future king. And on that first foreign trip of my presidency last May, the Crown Prince announced that Saudi Arabia would be investing an incredible almost $1 trillion in the United States, which he later increased. As just a few examples of these new partnerships, Oracle will be building a $14 billion worth of cloud computing and AI infrastructure in the kingdom. I didn't know that, David. We have to talk to your father about that. Why isn't he doing it here, David? I'm very upset with you. And by the way, David has done a very good job. David Ellis said he just had a very big win. And your father's very proud of you because your father said, that's a tough one. And you got it done. It's going to be a great success. You're going to be a great success. You're going to blow away your father. And he'll be very happy about that because he loves you. But it's a great family, great family. Say hello to him, okay? You're going to have a big, big success with the deal he made. Boeing is selling dozens of 737 airplanes in a deal valued at $4.8 billion and supporting approximately 20,000 U.S. jobs. And during our trip, the United States and Saudi Arabia, and I must say also Qatar, we visited, they were fantastic. And UAE, we visited, they were fantastic, all three of them. We took in a total of almost $3 trillion from just those three countries. But Saudi Arabia signed the largest defense sales agreement in American history, nearly $142 billion of the finest military equipment anywhere in the world. We make the best military equipment in the world by far. Nobody's ever figured out the Patriot. I mean, when you can shoot down 101 out of 101, that's good stuff, right? And those suckers are traveling at 2,000, Mr. Minister, 2,500 miles an hour. You better hope you don't have chokers sitting behind that desk. Because if they're about 1 second late, that's the end of it. You know, you say, well, we missed them. They're coming. When I hosted the Crown Prince at the White House last fall, we officially designated the kingdom as a major non-NATO ally, first time. And for the very first time, we agreed to sell Saudi Arabia perhaps the most capable fighter jet ever built, the F-35. The F-35 is amazing. And we sell them very sparingly. We don't want other people to have them. I'm confident that this partnership and so many others around the world will continue to grow and thrive because under President Trump, America once again fights and competes for one thing. We fight to win. We fight for justice and we fight to win. We don't fight to be politically correct like we did under other presidents where we fought to just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And, you know, when I took out ISIS, I was told by generals it would take 4 to 5 years. And I met General Raisin Kane, who's our top person, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I said, if I ever do this thing again, if I ever get in, I'm putting that guy as the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I went to see him in Iraq, and I said, why is it taking so long to destroy ISIS? We have the best weapons in the world. And I understood why, but I had generals, I call them the television generals. They weren't any good. Mattis, Milley, they weren't any good. They were lousy. But they said, sir, it will take about 4 years. When I went over and I met General Kane, I said, how long will it take? 4 weeks, sir, you'll have a lot of time left over. I said, wait a minute, did you say 4 weeks? 4 weeks, sir. It'll take 4 weeks. You'll have a lot of time left over. That's our new head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he said, how do you do that? Well, sir, we were only able to fight from this one very far away location because nobody wanted to use all of our portable runways that we have all over the Middle East. We have portable runways, can you believe it? We have everything. But nobody wanted to use them because they didn't want to insult the country where the runway was located. I said, they wouldn't even know. Do you think some country's going to know when we have jets taking off? They don't know. He said, well, I agree with you, sir, but whether they know or not, who cares? He said, so we have about 17 locations that we could take off. From this one, it took 8 hours to get to the destination. By the time we got there, we had to refuel all the time, and we had to come back. He said, but we have 17 different locations, sir. And, sir, we're going to hit them from the left. We're going to hit them from the right. We're going to hit them from the east and the west. And we're going to hit them from above. And you could see he was getting crazy. And I said, what's your first name? He said, Raisin, sir. What do you mean, Raisin? My name is Raisin. He said, you mean your name is Raisin Kane? And he said, yes, sir. You're the guy I'm looking for. I've been looking for you for 4 frickin' years. I found Raisin Kane. His first name is Dan, but his nickname is Raisin. And I love that. I loved Raisin Kane. And I said, if I ever get in, this was before I decided to even run, I said, if I ever run and if I win, that guy's going to be the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's exactly what happened. And he was all for me, and I'm all for him, but he's a great general. He's like one of these football coaches that's great. You know, there's some great ones, Johnny, right? And all they do is they sit, their wives are complaining, everyone's complaining. They never go, they don't see anybody. They just go into the room and they study film and tape it. Then they go out and win, and everyone says, and other guys are out there playing golf. They're not winning. And he's been great, and Pete Hegseth has been amazing. He's been amazing. Pete has done a great job. He was born for it. I really believe he was born for it. We have a lot of great people. We have a lot. We had a great first 4 years, but the people we have now, you know, look, when I won, I'd never done it before. I ran. Everyone thought I was doing it for fun. Even Steve Witkoff, he said, you're doing it for fun, right? No, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing it for. Maybe. But they all said, no, he's going to run. And in September, he's going to have a lot of fun. He'll drop out. And then the debates came, and I did good in the debates. And we're knocking people off, all senators, governors, mostly senators and governors, all professional politicians, smart guys. You can't be stupid and be a senator or a governor. It doesn't work that way. Other than Biden, he got lucky. He was in a room. They locked him in a room, and he never got to talk. So, but that's a whole other story. But I ran, and then all of a sudden, there were 18 people, including me. Then there were 15. Then there were 12. Then there were 9. Then there were 6, 5. It's like a rocket ship. 4. And then all of a sudden, I won. But I never did it before. I went to Washington. I said, I've only been here 17 times, and I've never slept over. I didn't know anybody. So I had to take recommendations from rhinos and some good people. I mean, there were recommendations, and some were really good. I mean, I had some great people. Look, I rebuilt our entire military in the first term. We got the largest tax cuts in history, the largest regulation cuts in history. The first time we did good, but I didn't have the same people generally. But I went home and I watched this thing closely. And by that time, I knew the good, the bad, and the ugly. I knew the good ones. I knew the bad ones. And when I came back, I picked great people. We have an unbelievable, we're talking military now, but we have an unbelievable group because I got to know it. I was never in Washington. You know, it's hard. I never ran for class president. All of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, your next president of the United States is Donald Trump. I said, really? I never did this before. Johnny, I said, how the hell did this happen, right? But it did happen, and we had a great first term. But the second term is blowing it away, to be honest with you. It's really blowing it away. And when we decide to leave, regime change, I guess we change the regime. The regime gets blown up every 2 days. No, everybody's afraid to announce who's the head. We don't even know who the hell the leader is. So I think we have regime change already. But we're going to be, at some point, we'll be leaving. And I think you're going to see a rocket ship because we won't have that dark cloud hanging over our heads, Steve, right, that we did before, which was a nuclear-armed, sick country of Iran, because it might have affected your country, Saudi Arabia, and the others, and it certainly affected Israel more than anybody, the hatred they have for Israel, but it also affected us because with modern-day equipment, they can fly. And how about the fact that they flew a missile 2,700 miles the other day? They didn't say they had that. Nobody knew they had that. Went 2,700 miles. So we learned a lot, but we're determined to have the best technology, the brightest minds, the greatest businesses, and the strongest economic and security partnerships of any nation, anywhere in the world. And for this reason, we're also committed to ensuring the United States remains number one in artificial intelligence. We're doing great. We're leading China by a lot, and I'll not allow radical left maniacs to sacrifice American AI leadership to red tape or political correctness. It's going good. We're doing really well. We're building factories all over America, the biggest in the world. And in America, we don't fear the future. We invent the future. We're really inventing the future. We have the most brilliant minds. And we invite all nations to join us in building the most powerful AI ecosystem on the planet. We're building more automobile plants than any time in the last 50 years for a lot of reasons. I think number one, maybe the election, but number two, and a close number two, is tariffs. The tariffs are driving people in from Canada, Mexico, Germany, Japan, South Korea. They're coming in. We're building auto plants all over the United States, tens of billions. I met Mr. Toyota in Japan. I said, what's your name? He's about 92 years old. Sharp as a tack. What's your name? Toyota. I said, you're rich. I said, do you have anything to do with automobiles? Yes. What do you have to do with Toyota? I own it. And I said, well, do you want to make an investment? Yes, we're going to spend $10 billion, spending $10 billion right now on building 5 plants. Everybody is. They're all coming into America. We're going to be hotter than we were 70 years ago when we dominated the automobile. We made all of the cars. My administration has also worked tirelessly to ensure that America remains at the bleeding edge of crypto revolution. We're really doing great. And if we're not going to do it, then China is going to take it over. They want to do it. We're going to be the undisputed crypto capital and Bitcoin superpower of the world. Bitcoin's very powerful. It's all becoming powerful. So many people now, they want to pay you in crypto. They want to pay you in Bitcoin. And we have to be at the top of it in all of these, call it an industry. Last year, I signed the landmark Genius Act into law, creating a clear and simple framework for dollar-backed stablecoins. And this was a historic achievement, and I'll not allow Democrats and their big bank donors, although they've had a lot of support for crypto. They will say that. The Democrats have been very strong on crypto. They want to see it too, which is shocking if you want to know the truth. But we don't want any pointless regulations or needless restrictions. We want to have free enterprise, open. America became the world financial capital because we were the strongest and the freest nation on earth, and the Trump administration's going to keep it that way. We're very open. And I tell people, if you have problems, call me. And some of them are amazed I actually take their call and get their problem solved. For 4 long years, our country was pushed to the brink of destruction by radicals and thugs and stupid people who punished success, pillaged our economy, dismantled our borders, and surrendered our strength. But today, all of that is behind us. Our country is prospering again, I think, like never before. I would say, it's amazing. I knew I'd do it. I didn't know I was going to do it. I had no idea it was going to be this fast. But you never know. I had no idea I'd be going into Iran. I didn't think we'd have to do that. But it turned out we did, because they became more and more radicalized and more threatening. Our economy is booming again, and America is respected again all over the world, perhaps like never before, with the help of business leaders, innovators, allies, and partners like those in this room, incredible people in this room, incredible success stories, the most successful people in the world. We'll seize every opportunity, overcome every challenge, defeat every threat, and America and our allies will thrive and prosper and win like no nations have ever won before. You're going to win like you've never had before. So I want to just thank everybody very much, and I'm asked to take a few questions. And unlike other politicians, they would like the questions screened. I don't ask for screening of the questions. You can ask me anything you want. You can talk sex. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm here for you. Whatever question you want, you can ask. So do you want to do that? Do we have some people handling this? Here he comes. Look at this man. Very powerful man coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take some questions. Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you so much. And thank you for accepting to take 5 questions. We don't want to take too much of your time. So let's talk about business. In one sentence, where should the world invest in America right now?
Say it, what?
Where should the world invest in America right now?
Well, look, the one that they're going crazy about is AI. Now, sometimes you'll say, let's go the opposite, because I've seen it. Everyone goes, but AI is going crazy. AI, so my family, we made Don, the whole family. Erica's doing a good job. All of us, Ivanka, we liked real estate. When you can make money in real estate, it's a great business, but I see some of these guys come into my office, they're wearing a T-shirt and they're 24 years old. Dad, he's got a net worth of $24 billion. I said, you gotta be kidding. Off a little contraption. So, but the money seems to be, right now, AI. And also, if you're in school, like you're going to the Wharton School or the Stern School or any of these great schools, the numbers that they're paying to go into that business is incredible, where you see people getting a $10 million bonus to sign, like baseball players or football players. We're giving you a $10 million. I hate to say because it sounds ridiculous, but there have been some $100 million bonuses paid to sign. So I think probably if you're going to say one thing, AI, and just hope that it works, right? You better hope.
So, Mr. President, what is the one leadership trait the world is missing right now? What is missing in leadership?
Well, it's winning. You got to win. I've watched a lot of people, leaders, great leaders. And, the one thing about sports is you break it down into, a 2-hour period, something nice. You don't have to wait a lifetime to find out is somebody a winner or a loser. You got a lot of losers, mostly losers, fortunately. It's a good thing to have a lot of losers. I always like to hang around with losers, actually, because it makes me feel better. I hate guys that are very, very successful and you have to listen to their success stories. I like people that like to listen to my success. But I find, and I found this, and I'm only kidding, I want to say that, sort of. But I find that people that win, it's much easier to lead when you're successful and you win. Vince Lombardi was a very tough person, a very tough football coach. He was sort of a violent guy, actually. I knew him. But he won, and he got away with things because he won. You know, I say, if you win, winning helps you to become a better leader. People follow you if you win. And not everybody can win. Some people win and some people don't win. But when you win, it's a lot easier to lead.
Talking about winning, Mr. President, the world is entering in a new economic era. Who do you think are the winners and who do you think will be the losers?
Are you talking about as nations?
Yes.
Well,
or sectors?
The United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world, by far. And we've done it very quickly because we have a good system. Now, it's somewhat radicalized because the Democrats are really holding us back, and you better hope they don't get in because they'll destroy a lot of what we've built. But right now, the United States, as the king, future king of Saudi Arabia said, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. I must say, I respect China greatly because it's amazing that with a system that in theory shouldn't work, you know, we go to school and we go to the best business schools and we do well in those schools. And we read about free entrepreneurship and we read about all of these different things. But you look at China, how well they do, how well they manufacture. I mean, they manufacture cars so many that they actually have a contest for who can manufacture the least cars because they have so many cars. You have to have great respect for China for the job they do. Like them or not like them, you have to respect them.
So precisely, you will be going to China in May.
Yes, I'll be going. We had a meeting, and I called up President Xi. I get along really well with him. He even approved the TikTok deal. He said, I will not approve that deal to other people, not to me. And I thought it was good if we could keep it going. I like it because I'm the #1 person on TikTok. Can you believe it? I put a chart up there, another chart. You want to put another chart up? Like we did with fake news, CNN. I said, you know, let's see what happens. So we got a group of very big investors, the biggest investors, and they really wanted to buy TikTok. And I did very well on TikTok in the election. I won the youth. You know, I did tremendously well with youth because of TikTok and other things, certain interviews, et cetera. But I did very well. And I sort of developed a liking for it. And I was told that it will never be approved by China. You had to get approval. And I didn't really care. And then it got to a point where all of these very successful people were willing to pay a lot of money for TikTok. And I called up President Xi. I said, do me a favor. Will you approve it, please? It's good. It's good for China, good for us, good for everybody. Would you do me a favor? I know you said it was a hard no. And I said, I know you said no to everybody, but you haven't said no to me. Would you do me a favor? Would you approve it? It's good for China. It's good for us. You have a lot of big investors. They're investing in China also. They have a lot of money in China. I would appreciate it. He said, okay, I'll do it. Nice. It was very nice. And they bought TikTok, and it's going to do good. And it was done with the consent of China. We get along well with China. You know, China used to take big advantage of us, but they don't take advantage of us anymore. Now we compete very nicely with China. We put tariffs on China. The tariffs got too high. At one point, they were up to 145%. You know, I was saying, nope, put tariffs on that, put tariffs on for fentanyl, add 20%. And then one day I said, what's China paying now? Sir, they're paying 145%. I said, 145? That's crazy. I got a little carried away. So I got them down to 100. Then I took them down a little more. And I'll never forget, I took them down a little bit from 145 to 100. And the fake news said, Donald Trump collapses in China. They're paying 100%. Nobody pays 100. So anyway, we got it down. And now we have a great business relationship with China. I've always had a good relationship with President Xi, except for the COVID situation, because I wasn't thrilled about that. He wasn't thrilled either, by the way, but I wasn't thrilled. But I have great respect for him as a leader. And we had a deal. I was going there, and I didn't want to go during the war. I said, look, you know, we have a thing called a war, or as they would rather say, a military operation. This is for legal reasons. I say military, because as a military operation, I don't need any approvals. As a war, you're supposed to get approval from Congress, something like that. So I call it a military operation, but we have that going along, and I'd like to delay it. So we delayed it a few weeks, so I'll be going very shortly.
Mr. President, we have few leaders here, business leaders from Africa And of course, we have His Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone. What is your vision about Africa today?
Well, I tell you, it's got tremendous potential. Now, I've been hearing about this for a very long time, and I have a lot of friends that have bet the ranch on Africa. They're very smart. It's got tremendous earth. It's got tremendous value underground, which is a very important. So do we. So does America. We have the most oil and gas and coal and everything of any nation on earth. It's a big advantage. But Africa has tremendous value in its land. And if they can unify and get together, I think it's got tremendous potential. I have a lot of very smart friends that they're putting everything into Africa.
What do you think, Mr. President, is today the biggest mistake that leaders are making right now?
Not sticking together. I think that NATO made a terrible mistake when they wouldn't send a small amount of military armament, when they wouldn't send just even acknowledge what we were doing for the world and taking on Iran. I never considered it very risky, but war is always risk. You know, a lot of strange things happen in war that are very bad, but I didn't consider it. I know how great we're the greatest military by far anywhere. There was nobody close. I didn't think there was a big risk, but there's always surprises with war. They can be very bad surprises. I mean, wars are lost that should be won. Many wars are lost. You think a country is going to wipe somebody out and they end up getting wiped out themselves. So it's always risky. But I think a tremendous mistake was when NATO just wasn't there. They just weren't there. It's going to make a lot of money for the United States because we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO, hundreds of protecting them. And we would have always been there for them. But now, based on their actions, I guess we don't have to be, do we?
Mr. President.
That sounds like a breaking story, yes, sir. Is that breaking news? I think we just have breaking news. But that's the fact. I've been saying that. Why would we be there for them if they're not there for us? They weren't there for us.
If you had one bet on the future, what would it be?
That the United States will, with good leadership, remain the dominant country anywhere in the world. But you still need leadership. I mean, look at the last 4 years were so bad with the bad leader. You need leadership. And, you know, in theory, you need to have that. You need the open, fair elections. You need a free press. We have a terrible press. We have a very corrupt media. Think of it. I got 96% negative stories, and I won in a landslide. And you know what that means? That means that the media has no credibility. You can't get mostly bad stories, fake stories. They were fake. The polls are fake. That's why I appreciate that one poll that I saw up there, 100%. She's never seen 100%. Nobody has. But you have to have a free and open media. And when a media can give you 96 to 97% bad stories, they write stories about it. Trump received 97% bad stories, and I won in a landslide. And that means very simply that the media has no credibility because that can't happen. Now, I also have a voice more than most people. I can come up and talk about it and convince people without necessarily reading the New York Times, which is fake. I mean, if you read the New York Times, you would think we're doing badly against Iran. Remember, they have no Navy, wiped out. 159 ships at the bottom of the sea in 3 days. They have no Air Force, all wiped out. They have very few missiles left. Their drones are at a minimum. Their factories are gone. Their leaders are gone. The leaders are all dead. They're all dead. Nobody ever heard of the people that are left. And if you read the Times, you think we're doing poorly. It's almost treasonous, I have to be honest. It's almost treasonous. But fortunately, we have other media that's fair and honest and honorable. And you have to go out and do some of your own talking because nobody else will. You know the expression? I have to sell myself because nobody else will.
My last question, Mr. President, is the same question I asked you last year. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I told you that I settled 8 wars. That means millions and millions of people. And some of those wars were going on. One was 34 years, one was 32 years, one was 29 years, one was 22 years. They were long-term wars and a lot of people being killed every year. So I've saved millions and millions of people. And I mean, I know it doesn't sound right for me to say this, but I'd love my legacy to be made as a great peacemaker, because I really believe I'm a peacemaker. It doesn't seem it right now, but I think I'm a peacemaker. Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much.
President Trump at the FII Institute in Miami, Florida, with Saudi Arabian partners, businessmen, and allies, really giving a stern speech, with some comedy sprinkled in there, of course, on NATO and its recent failures to assist the United States, although we are there for them in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, something that the president has committed to wanting to end, stating he's solved 8 wars in the second term, and he thought that one would be the easier one. But you have President Putin, President Zelensky truly hating one another. Of course, that final question there from the MC, what do you want your legacy to be? I want that to be that of peacemaker, and that is happening through the Peace Through Strength agenda. Thank you for all of the viewers here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, especially in the prime time as we get further into our Friday evening. RSBN is viewer supported. rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can also like, share, and subscribe at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. But do not fear, let not your heart be troubled. If you prefer to send that check or money order, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for all your support, your viewership, and also the financial assistance to keep going in the new media. As President Trump said, there are some good ones out there. You need a free and fair press, but some of them are just simply not telling the truth. We seek here to give you unbridled access as the #1 source for political events in America. Also, your go-to live desk and rally network. We don't edit the speeches. We bring you right there, as we did to Miami, Florida, for President Trump's speech in his entirety, all of the hearings on Capitol Hill, and access to the executive branch, the legislative branch, of course, the judicial branch, everything that you have put into place dating back to those videos and photos from November of 2024. Also, thank you to Mike Lindell, running for governor of Minnesota, where he makes, right here in America, these amazing products. To help you have a better night's sleep and a more promising morning, the mattress and topper sale happening for as low as $99.99 with promo code RSBN plus free shipping. Call today, do not delay. It's 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. Over 2,000 products there at mypillow.com/RSBN. And I have the My Coffee right here. I can smell it through the bag with the man for the moment, the master marketer, as President Trump puts it, Mike Lindell, with the American flag and, of course, the Bill of Rights. Someone who has fought hard for election integrity and put everything on the line for the future of this nation. He will be a great governor for the good people in Minnesota. As you heard earlier on the broadcast, the amount of fraud, waste, and abuse coming from that state, really a disgrace what's happened under Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison. And the good people of Minnesota deserve better. But in the meantime, go grab yourself a MyPillow 1.0, 2.0, some My Slippers, My Coffee, or even the mattress and topper sale, now for as low as $99.99 plus free shipping with promo code RSBN at mypillow.com/RSBN. We hope you have a wonderful weekend going into Holy Week, a very important week for all Christians here in this nation, in the Western Church. The Eastern Lung, as we saw with His Eminence, the Archbishop of America with President Trump just yesterday. Their Easter 1 week after that of the Western Church on April 12th. So lots to celebrate as we go into these spring weeks and months. I hope it's full of sunshine in your neck of the woods as we cover the latest from the Trump White House and on Capitol Hill, where the executive order was signed by the president earlier. TSA will be funded through this shutdown, now in day 42. The House responding to that package sent from the Senate early in the morning today, 3-4 in the morning, very, very early, while most of us were sleeping on the East Coast. We'll watch that all closely as that battle continues to develop. And some more breaking news before we leave you. Tiger Woods is charged with yet another DUI after an accident in Florida, another car crash. We are praying for his safety in that situation and that of the authorities as well. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. In case there's any breaking news here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we will be with you as we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway. Please feel free to write if you wish to opine, feedback at rsbn.tv. For all of my colleagues here on the right side of history, may God be with you, God bless you, and make sure you always tune in to your number one place for political events. That's right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network.